In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It will be the result of your subconscious fears transformed to your conscious awareness. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for joining me again for another BGcast Wednesday live podcast. Yes, I have a new hat and I'm wearing a sweater tonight. It's getting a little bit cooler here in Colorado, so thought I'd wear something comfortable. I thought I'd get comfortable, and just kind of let it roll. But again, I want to thank, I got a couple of messages real quick before we bring my 2 guests on. Of course, I want to thank all of the new subscribers and followers over on Rumble and YouTube. Welcome to the BGcast family. I really appreciate you guys, coming over and joining the fun, joining the party, and the learning together in this crazy, unknown, uncharted, and strange territory humanity is in at this current time. Of course, we're in very strange, uncharted and unknown territory right now. So that's why we have these conversations. That's why we sit down and talk about this stuff so we can kind of make sense of everything that's occurring to us in this weird kind of collective alchemical transmutation that's going on at this point in time. Also, a word from our sponsor. Yes, guys, if you don't remember last week, so I'm going to say this episode is sponsored by Divine Creation Gifts, your sacred space for carefully curated crystals, spiritual tools, handmade body products, and high vibe creations to support your awakening journey. Discover sacred treasures for your mind, body, and soul. Visit divinecreationgifts.com and step into the magic. Alrighty, guys, let's take a look at their website real quick. And like I said, guys, definitely go over here and check this out. I really like to support homegrown businesses. They have a lot of really cool sales on crystals, and you get free shipping on orders over $50. And you can also join the club. If you want to check out their apparel and merch, they got an apothecary with herbal stuff. They got tools and supplies and crystals and jewelry. So head on over and check them out. Show them some love for sure, guys. All right. So my next 2 guests I've had on the show before. And the number one thing I want to say about these 2 is I'm actually really freaking proud of them, man. They have told me that I make them think. And I got to say that if I'm making somebody think, I'm doing a good job here, and I've actually watched these 2 grow since we first started talking. And I have to say, I'm really excited about their growth for them. I'm really excited about them branching into new horizons and opening themselves up a little bit more. And tonight I have coined this episode The Science of Love, because this was actually a choice of subject matter by my 2 guests. And I was stoked when I saw this, because we all know love is such a huge thing. And we got some other great stuff we're gonna talk about as well. But let me bring to the stage Brothers Blue. First, we have Brother Kody. What's up, man? Good to see you.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and we got Brother Kyle, man. What's up, Kyle? Good to see you.
Hey, guys.
Well, man, thanks you 2 for joining me tonight. This, I think, like I said, the subject matter you guys picked for this, I think we're gonna have a really fine conversation. And again, thanks for both of you taking your time being here. All right, nonetheless, guys, let's break right into it. It's going to be interesting. So let's talk about the loss of trust and faith in scientific institutions. Now, at least in my perspective, one reason why this has been the case is there has been a lot of dishonesty in this sense. And of course, I think both of you have heard me say this before. When money talks and bullshit walks, we can look at everything as a business first, public mask second, right? And couple that with the grave ethics violations, not just in the physics community, but also in a lot of the other communities within the scientific institution as well. I feel in a lot of ways that profit and manipulation has kind of taken over the altruistic nature and the altruistic side of these institutions. So I'm going to go ahead and move it to Kody. Let's get your thoughts real quick, and then we'll hop down to Kyle. So tell me, what do you think? What do you think the huge reason is for this loss of trust and faith in these scientific institutions?
So I think what keeps happening is things like end up being vilified, and it's like the wrong thing being vilified. So like you and I agree that America's food and water is not to where it should be, but like my big thing is like microplastics and food deserts. Like I actually could show you a food desert in Denver on East Colfax. I know where one is right in your area. I also, right here in Pittsburgh, I know this place called the West End. It's a little neighborhood, and it's just a food desert. These are not places that people need to be bringing up children. And then microplastics are being found in our soil, our water, our everything. We've been using fluoridated water systems for 50 plus years, and I seem to be okay. I agree that some people have adverse reactions to certain systems, but I think the vast majority of people have benefited over time from fluoridated water systems.
Okay. Well. Okay. Number one thing I definitely agree with you on is the food desert thing and bringing up kids there. And there's a lot of food deserts here in Colorado. It's actually quite surprising, at least in the Denver area. I've noticed. Once you get kind of out to the outskirts of the areas, like here where I'm at in Lakewood, it's not much of a food desert. We have quite a few places to get fresh foods. But no, I'm with you, dude. I don't think food deserts should exist.
They suck.
Yeah, they suck, absolutely, and totally agree on the microplastics, man. Microplastics, they're actually harmful to our DNA. They're harmful to our genetic structure, and they cause a host of inflammatory issues within the body. They cause constant inflammation. Also, the breakdown of the toxic products and the microplastics. Now, the one thing I'm going to say about the fluoride, I don't necessarily agree with you there. The one thing I would implore you to actually do is to take a look at the Fluoride Action Network website. It's an organization that has done actually quite a bit of extensive research on the fluoride issue, and they're believe it or not, they're government sponsored, I think, too, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, it just brings. Now, don't get me wrong. When we're talking about natural fluorine, natural fluorine's a different story. Of course, like if you drink tea, or you have natural fluorine. If some well water has traces of natural fluorine. I just am a believer that the fluoride that they're putting into our water supply is not a great thing. There was actually a news story that was done back, I think it was in either 2014 or 2015. It was up in the Chicago area where they accidentally dumped a barrel of the fluoride that they put in our water supply was accidentally dumped on asphalt, and it ate through the asphalt. So yeah, definitely. But dude, I agree with you on those first two things. Kyle, what are your thoughts on the loss of trust and faith in the scientific institutions? Where do you think this is all coming from?
Well, I don't know where it's come from, but to get at the answer of like tackling it, maybe or responding to it. Again, this is from an article that I'll share with you, and hopefully we can share with others. But individual scientists and the scientific community at large are supposed to confront and counter these attacks on the intellectual integrity that is at the heart of the scientific enterprise. And so, I think that is part of just being a scientist and having integrity. A lot of people like paint these programs and figures as like clandestine and nefarious, when really a lot of them are just like doing their job.
100%, 100%. And I get your perspective on it too. Don't get me wrong. And trust me, I'm going to be the first to tell you that I know there's altruistic people there that are trying to do the best job that they can. This is where I kind of dive into the deciphering of being human and human nature and human psychology and all of that when we start to kind of dive into this area. And the reason why I do that is, let's talk about collusion real quick, because one of the biggest things that a lot of people who kind of debate my narrative, they don't agree with the collusion factor. They're like, how does this kind of collusion occur? Well, it's not necessarily a matter of collusion in this aspect. What you have is you have 3 shot callers and millions of worker bees. Right. And the 3 shot callers put in what they want to happen. And it could be more than 3 shot callers. It could be, it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3, maybe more, but they put in the orders to the worker bees. This is what they want to see done. This is how they want this to go. And now this is where I kind of, get down into, if you're human, you have to notice something is wrong with this. And a great example of this is kind of what this is definitely tying into the scientific institution as well, because it's tying into the medical part of that. We have my friend Joey, whose son, who is being basically force-fed chemo and radiation, even though he's in remission. And these doctors are not looking at any of the reputable scientific studies, right? That are being brought to the table about what they're doing is wrong. I'm talking about, we have PubMed, NIH, we have peer-reviewed studies that she's bringing to the table and telling these doctors that, listen, you need to stop doing this to my son. You're doing more harm than good. And they refute the scientifically sound information that's being brought to them, and they're just following protocol. So I think this is, and I'm not saying all of them are this way. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I understand that there are altruistic people there, and even Joey in her story talked about an altruistic nurse who was kind of trying to help her, and give her some advice and tidbits, but that's kind of where I think, I agree with what you're saying, but there's also this case too. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think as a human being, even if we're in this position where we have to work this job, especially in one of these fields, and we're being presented very hard evidence that what we're doing in our job is wrong, and we should probably not be doing it. What do you think somebody should do in a situation like this? We'll start with Kody first.
So that's actually tough, and I hate to be like superficial to add my own personal experience to it, but like that's kind of like when I was a banker, and Kyle knows this, I worked for Wells Fargo for 5 years in Denver, and like I was good at it. I was good at my job. But I had to convince myself that I was helping people and that I wasn't helping our terrible economic system. So like, and that's where I think to bring it back to the science and actually it sucks because it goes from science into the healthcare. But there's this profit motive that you were mentioning, Stephen, that just pervades through the scientific community, and then it pervades even further into the healthcare community. So we have a cancer industry, and we have, an insulin industry, and all these industries that just shouldn't exist, and they should just be healthcare. But that's profit for you. So profit,
definitely.
Profit.
It is, and and this is where we kind of start drawing the line of like, what is ethical when it comes to profit in these industries? Like, is it ethical to negate the health and the well-being of a human being for profit? Is it ethical to maybe blur certain information in order to get a certain medication or a certain thing out that could potentially cause people harm? Exactly. Is it ethical in that concept? Because I mean, at least in my eyes, no. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I understand we live in a world where we have to make money, to have this comfortable life and to provide for our families and things like that. But at least in my eyes as a human being, I mean, another great example of this is, let's look at Monsanto. Because back in, I believe it was back in 2014, and this is, I think, was actually not a lot of people talk about this, because this was I've been in this scene for this long, and
I remember the Monsanto thing.
You remember Monsanto, yeah. So like but Monsanto outlawed all third-party testing of their products, and they were the only ones allowed to do the testing.
Right. So that's not corrupt. That's not corrupt at all.
Exactly. Kyle, what are your thoughts on the ethical consequences of things like this? And where do you think a line should be drawn in your eyes? Do you think that for the sake of profit, should things be misconstrued? Should things be blurred? Or is there some kind of ethical line that we should draw in this? Let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, obviously I'm not a fan of profit motives, so we'll just get that out of the way. Or like the commodification of like anything. And another like unfortunate aspect is, that's the other thing, is like, I'm a public school teacher. Public education in America is broken. It's a catch-22. Like, I'm not going to stop being a teacher because
we need to fix it, not get rid of it.
Exactly. So, again, it's up to us. Like, we're doing the hard work. We're doing the dirty work to figure out where that line needs to be drawn. And this is our ethical dilemma, or the problems that we need to at least try to be solving. And another one of the articles that I'm going to share with you is from the Union of Concerned Scientists.org. So it's pretty legit, and it's from the Scientific Integrity Board, and it is about abuses within the abuses of policy that are based on scientific research. And yeah, you're gonna love this article. So that's exactly what you're talking about, and it is unfortunate that it is a real thing, like the sexual abuse thing that you mentioned as well, like that. I looked into and I was like, oh wow, he's not wrong. Yeah.
No, definitely, man. And honestly, that honestly makes me kind of happy, because I did not know that there was actually a board of scientists who were kind of starting to call this out and kind of bring this to light. Excuse me, because I don't have a problem with the scientific method. I mean, it's tried and true. Well, wait, what'd you say? You kind of broke up there a little bit, Kody.
Fuck around and find out. That's what the scientific method is.
I like how you guys say that. Yes, no, it is fuck around and find out. That's tried and true. It's these institutions that are, and one of the biggest things that I find ironic about it all is science itself has become, at least the current form of an institution, science has become it's so ironic. It makes me laugh when I say this, but the scientific institutions have become the very thing that they hate. They've become a religion.
Right.
And
scientific institutions are very similar to religious institutions.
I don't know. This idea that science is dogma is kind of like, I've heard that before, and I'm not on. I don't have to be on board with that. We don't have to agree on everything.
No, of course not. Yeah.
I'm not really on board with that one, because again, I've heard that like the idea that science is a religion or a cult or dogma or anything like that, that's not real science. But if you ask me, but then again,
I would agree with you. It's not real science. That I definitely agree with you on.
But something that they share, actually, religious and science institutions both are getting like less and less. People have less and less trust in them. Both.
Yeah, both.
100%, man. That's why I walk the middle path, man. That's why I'm on the middle path. And but no, and I feel what you're saying, Kyle, too. But where I come from, where I see it, so non-theistic religions exist. Like there are religions that are non-theistic that don't center around a greater power. Actually, what's kind of funny is there's actually some non-theistic sects of Judaism, which is very strange to me, because you look at Judaism and it revolves around a higher power. Yeah. But where I get the
that one.
Yeah. I'll bring it up a little bit later. But where the dogma comes from is the attitude that you can't question it. You can't question it. You know what I mean? And here's the thing, because last time I checked, the science is meant to be questioned. It's meant to be challenged. It's meant to be expanded upon, and that's where, in my opinion, that the dogma factor comes in. You know what I mean? Because we have people who are almost dogmatic in their viewpoints when it comes to that. So like, I can't tell you how many debates I've had with these individuals. Like when I used to debate, I don't debate anymore. It's a waste of energy for me. I mean, people, one of the things that, because of my spiritual side, I always think people have the right to their own point of view, regardless of whether or not I agree with it. But I've debated, and a lot of the times, like, I'll bring up credible evidence and they go, oh, well, you just must not understand it. I'm like, no, I understand it. I'm done this, or you're not qualified, or this and this and this. And it's like, well, at that point, like, so what do you want me to do? Just lay down and fucking bow down to you and bow my head to you and be like, you're the fucking God here, or what? Like that's the mentality that I've gotten from it. And that's, that's where the dogma factor at least comes in for me, Kyle. Like, you know what I mean? Like there, and granted, I know not every person who puts their trust and faith in science is this way, but it seems like there is a great amount of them who feel this way. And, so I think one of the biggest things we could do to have people regain trust and faith in these scientific institutions is to allow the questioning, to allow the debating, to allow the refuting of studies, to actually bring to the table expansions. And
especially in things like physics. Like you brought up physics earlier, and like I was a science teacher, Kyle. Like I like biology and I like geology a lot. Physics I find very challenging, but I also am really in love with physics because it's like
nice.
The science of everything. Because that's the thing, is like biology is the science of life, geology is the science of the earth, but physics is like everything.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. And I'll be the first to say, like, listen, even though I understand physics pretty well, I'm not a physicist by any means. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't go to college for physics. I didn't do my 12-year doctorate or whatever they do. I actually got a buddy of mine who I still talk to. He went to he's a physicist at this point.
Damn, dude, yep. That's awesome. Me and Kyle's best friend is a rocket scientist. He just actually launched a satellite like a week ago.
That's pretty awesome, man. I dig that. And like, no, so him and I used to play electric violin. He was an electric violin player in my band back in the day. He's a sick electric violin player. Amazing electric, and he still plays, but it was good to see that that's what he did. And also too, I'm going to bring up a comment. I have a question from Don real quick. I'm going to get back because we were chatting. I'm enjoying this. Let's pull up Don's question real quick.
I look forward to the Don shows every week.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, Don's a great guy, man. He's the brother from another mother, and he's a lot like me in the way that we do things. So let me pull up his question real quick. I know it's up here. So I know if I don't see it, I do remember the question. So it's a little bit too. Oh, here we go. Cool. All right, Don. So do some bottled waters contain fluoride, and how can we identify it? So there is a regulation in place. Now, I'm not saying this regulation is always followed. But if there is fluoride in the bottled water, they have to label there is. Now, of course, like I said, regulations these days are rarely followed. So what you could do is you could get a test kit to test, test your water for fluoride. And this is something I wanted to bring up from Michelle, because she brought, and I'm sure you might have an opinion on this, Kyle, too, because you are a school teacher. They're putting the 10 commandments back in school. It's not about God. It is the Illuminati and the Order of Melchizedek, and it is an agenda on taking your children. Be wary. Which I'll explain this. Like, I'm all for, and I'm sure you two can agree with this on this. I'm all for incorporating a spiritual way of life into this society, into this collective, meaning that we understand that there is a greater. Oh, by the way, Don wanted to say thanks, Kyle. It's great to have you in the chat, just so you know. And but a spiritual way of life, understanding that there's something bigger than us here. There's a bigger thing here going on. Being kind, compassionate, and respectful to each other. Having a sense of community, you know what I mean? Respecting the people in our community, bringing back, even like the old bonfires and the old hangouts that we used to have back in the day. I'm all for that, but bringing a Judeo-Christian religion back into schools, I'm not for. I'm not for.
Well, and luckily, I mean, or not, I don't know. Public education in this country is largely dictated on the state level. So the 10 Commandments being in my classroom probably isn't very likely. But Arizona has other problems with public education. I think we rank like 47th or something. We're not doing too hot here with public education. But going back to the drilling down on the dogma thing, sorry, because this is actually just going to bring up a point that I wanted to get to, but it kind of another thing that I was thinking about, how people have sort of weaponized science. People have sort of also or attached dogma to science as well. I think people have done the same thing with a concept that I find it fairly innocuous, but I guess is not, secularism. I think is like the idea of secular dogma. Isn't that like an oxymoron? Like, yeah.
It is, but where it comes from on me, dogma is a lot of things. I mean, you look at dogma. Yes, dogma could be looked at something that has to do with a religion, but let's take the term dogmatic, right?
Yeah.
You can apply dogmatic to many things. Like you can have a dogmatic sports lover or a football guy. He's super dogmatic with his team, things like that. You can have a dogmatic archaeologist. Yes. So this is another thing too. I actually had a certified archaeologist on the show back in season 2, and he admits that there's a narrative in archaeology that is being followed, and it is a dogmatic narrative of some kind. So, but as far as what you would call strict dogma, in my eyes, like, yes, we can apply that to religion. Of course, when you're talking about secularism, yes, it seems like an oxymoron, but when you're looking at dogmatic behavior, that's kind of like the best way I can describe it. And honestly, too, I mean, even if we're looking at secularism, I mean,
Yeah.
it's go ahead,
So
what you
science can't be completely secular, and that's the thing, is like, as much as we want it to be completely secular, science, Kyle, we've talked about this, science doesn't happen in a vacuum,
Yeah.
right? And so science, as much as we want it to be secular, whatever, unfortunately it's not.
Or objective. Like,
Correct.
it's the difference between objective and subjective. Like, subjectivity is just like part of reality. This timeline, yeah.
Exactly.
So the other thing I'll say too is it's like also, I'm going to say this: the belief in nothing is the belief in something. Like, there is, I mean, we look at atheism, which is the thing that's kind of adopted, the mentality and the ideology that's adopted by
Conflating atheism and secularism is a big problem I have too, also. So
Yeah, right. And
No,
that's
no,
my
of course.
thing is, I'm not an atheist. I would never say I'm an atheist, but
the way I understand secularism is just like removing religion. It's not anti-religion. It's
removed. It's removed. No, totally. And this is actually where we get to. There's many different kinds of atheists too.
Yeah.
There's not just one strict kind of atheist. Like, I know people who are actually like true atheists who still believe in being a good person and treating people well. There's a group of people that I call nihilistic atheists that are the ones that I kind of
nihilists. Yeah.
Yes. I call them nihilistic atheists because, like, they believe everything is pointless. There is no reason, and because there is no God, there is no reason for all of this. This is all just coincidence. I can be however I want with no repercussions. That's where, excuse me, I have the problem with that. But no, I'm with you, dude. Secularism and atheism, definitely. Yeah, go ahead. What were you say?
I only brought it up because, I wanted to bring up this concept of the low trust society, which is something that I've heard in multiple places. Again, specifically in this interview between the internet's most hated secularist, Sam Harris, and Scott Galloway. But Scott Galloway, you may or may not know, is like awesome. So there's a conversation between Sam Harris and Scott Galloway where they talk a lot about low trust societies and the lack of faith in institutions, and it's really good. I'll share it with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see it. Well, and where it comes from is I think right now the lack of trust and faith is really stemming from a lot of people are starting to kind of wise up to everything that we're talking about. I mean, like I said, when I talk about these institutions and I talk about government, I always base it off of these three things. You have human nature, human psychology, and the psychology of governments. We can't debate those. We can't debunk those. We can't refute those. Those are natural, innate things that just occur in these structure, in the mental structure and the psychological structure of the human being, and they just are, and how the nature of how governments and institutions work. So, I definitely liked what you were saying earlier. I mean, a good way to regain that trust would be to allow the questioning, to allow the refuting of studies, and also to open the door to these wider and these greater concepts of what I would potentially say are the metaphysical or energetic concepts. Because I don't know if you guys saw my episode on the subtle body, but I did a whole episode on it, and I pulled up an NIH study where they were just verbatim, bottom line, showing the meridian system in a human autopsy. They were showing the different points of the human energetic meridian system in the muscle and the skin. Hey, Stone Hobbit, good to see you. these meridian points, and even in the muscle, you saw where the areas in the muscle had this softer tissue that actually went down into the nervous system, which is a big aspect of our meridian system in our subtle body here. And they were showing all of these different points. And I got to tell you what, guys, the article, like I was like super stoked about it at first, you know, and I was looking at this and I was like, wow, dude, they literally are just laying it out. Like they found the meridian system in the human body and they're showing us. But at the end of the study, I was very disappointed to see that they said they had inconclusive evidence that this actually existed. But you just showed us all of these photos of this from a human autopsy. You showed us the points, the meridian points in the system that actually go through the muscle fascia into the nervous system, these softer points. And I mean, this is the basis of acupuncture. Like, you know what I mean, on how it works, like, you know, and like you basically proved it and then said that we have inconsistent evidence. So I think, you know, opening up the minds of people and understanding that there is somewhat of a metaphysical nature to this reality. Oh my God, Michelle, I can't believe you said that. I'll pull it up real quick.
Oh God, damn.
Yeah, oh my goodness, dude, she's a trip. But what do you guys think about that too? Because like, I mean, I know you both have been kind of reading up on panpsychism and consciousness and things like that as well. I mean, do you think that this should be something that is explored and opened up in the scientific field? I mean, I honestly think so. I mean, if we have theories like panpsychism emerging that states consciousness is the prima materia of all existence and that everything stems from it, that would definitely tell me that there's more to this reality than just our basic physical five senses.
Okay, I'm glad you brought this up, Stephen, because Kyle and I have had extensive conversations about panpsychism, and I know it's something that you have done a lot of research into. Again, this is one of those concepts where I like to be humble, and dude, panpsychism is a very deep and like perplexing concept. So we have talked about how like panpsychism deals with like outer space and shit like that, but also like I don't believe in like molecular sentience on like a super base level. Like I don't think my cell phone has sentience. I don't think this can has sentience. You know, I think sentience is something that we have. Other organisms have it, but no one has it on the level humans have a sentience. And so that's where it gets complicated. So
I understand. Well, so this is where I'll try to help you out on a little bit. Of course, like you're going to see things your own way. So let's say you are the observer. All right. You are the observer of your own subjective reality, and you are the observer creating this objective reality through it being observed, right?
Exactly.
Or the subjective reality being observed. So wouldn't that rock and that can in that cell phone be an extension of yourself in this case?
Oh, sure.
Because you are the
creating it.
observer.
You're creating it.
Yes, you're creating it. You went out, you wanted the drink, like you wanted the soda, you wanted the cell phone. You know, you might have wanted to see the rock. You might have wanted to experience the rock. So take it from that level. No, you're all good, Kyle. No worries, man. So take it from there and understand that while these might not be sentient themselves, could they be an extension of your sentience? And that. What were you say, Kyle? Go ahead. I know you want to say something.
Sorry, I'm just loving everything you're saying, Stephen, because it's making it. This is the way I think about panpsychism also. And like, unfortunately, I feel like there is within the community or whatever a tendency to conflate panpsychism and pantheism, where people are like, we are all divine and everything, and that's fine, but that's pantheism, not panpsychism. And what I like about the idea of panpsychism is that, like, again, we are a finite species. Like the earth, like there is a rock that has been on the earth longer than we have been, and will still be there when we're gone. So
Totally.
yeah, our human consciousness acting like it's something special, I guess, is seems like a little conceited, almost
It's arrogant.
spiritually,
It's super arrogant.
spiritually arrogant. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I'll say too. So this is actually diving into Carl Jung, and so this is actually definitely. So there's a collective consciousness that we pull from, right? So this is so let's. I've even used this analogy. Let's say you've never seen a tree before, right? Let's say you've never seen a tree ever in your whole life. But when you walk up to a tree for the first time, you see it as a tree, and you see it as how every other human has seen a tree ever since humans have started walking upright. So the reason why you still see it as a tree, even though you've never seen a tree, is because you are pulling what I would call a rendering archetype from the human collective consciousness, right? Because at this point, humans could have been around for a very, very long time, longer than 10,000 years. We're now looking at upwards of, or modern humans and ancient humans, they say 300,000. We're looking at the possibility of 2 million years at this point that humans have potentially been walking the planet with new scientific discoveries. So this is where you are pulling that from. And to your point, Kyle, what you're saying about it being conceited, well, here's the thing. Like I said, if consciousness is a prima materia of this existence and everything stems from it, that takes the consensual narrative of our existence here is just by coincidence and by chance, and it makes it absolutely necessary that we have to be here, because the universe doesn't exist unless it's observed. So I mean, we could definitely, now is that of some kind of importance? Well, yes, I say, like, if it's necessary for us to be here, for us to observe the universe in order to make it be, I am going to say that, like, well, yes, we shouldn't let it go to our heads. Don't get me wrong, and make it an ego thing and be like, I'm the most fucking important thing here, or or like or this and this. But yes, I think our existence is important. It is, because if that is indeed what is going on, and it's making our existence here absolutely necessary, that also makes the existence of all the animals necessary. That also makes the existence of all of the micro life necessary, and all of that. So I don't see it. I mean, I can get why you see it that way. And don't get me wrong, some people will always take it to the next level, dude. There's people who are going to take it to the next level and make it ego driven. I see it as we're all part of this giant creation that needs us in order for it to gather information and learn about itself. You know what I mean? While yes, the rock could have potentially existed for millions of years before we have been there, who's to say the rock even truly existed until it was observed? So that's where I'm coming from on it. I get your point though. Real quick, let's this was great. I liked this part of this. Let's kind of get into the next thing, because I've talked with you guys too about the the toxicity in our food and water. And go ahead, what you say, Kyle?
Before we move on, obviously you and I need to have a larger conversation about panpsychism, but that is exactly the sort of one of the thesis that Brian Cox, the astrophysicist, everybody should love him. But yeah, he talks about, like, the massive importance. As far as we know, we're it. Humanity is the universe's only chance, because we're, like, able to observe it and all these things. So I get it. Like, we do have a special place in the universe.
Totally. Totally, man. No, I definitely agree with that. No, and thanks for saying that. So the next thing, the toxicity in the food and the water, we kind of touched on it a little bit in the beginning. And let's kind of dive into this just a little bit further, because this is something that I am really passionate about, because I am a, excuse me, very health driven individual. I take care of myself. I like to put the cleanest water in my body. I like to put the cleanest food in my body. And you know, it's so let's talk about this for a second, because I think this is a prime problem with America right now. And one of the biggest things that I want to say too is, I actually was watching something the other day that said, you know, we're having a food crisis here in America that nobody's talking about. And so let's kind of get into you two's experiences with the toxicity of the food. If you guys don't mind just kind of elaborating, what things have you noticed? And in your own life, have you experienced any ill symptoms from the toxicity of the food? So Kody, let's get to you first, man. You have not? Okay.
Oh, sorry, I had a fly.
No worries.
I think that Kyle and I are actually karmically lucky in that we have very good health, and we will have good health because we're gonna die when we're 55. So that's a
very exact age, but okay.
Maybe before then, probably before then. But anyways, I personally have not dealt with anything, and so that's actually kind of like, so I've done a lot of the website that you talked about earlier, that you mentioned earlier, the fluoride alert website. I've actually read a lot of stuff on there already, and that's my thing, is like, I lived in Denver for 10 years. I lived in Pittsburgh for 10 years. I lived in Seattle area for 15 years. I've used fluoridated water systems for my entire life. The entirety of America has been using fluoridated water systems since the 1950s. I agree. Like I was saying earlier, there's like, so like my roommate, he can't drink the tap water the way I can. But like, he's from Iraq, and like, there are different things. Like, I grew up drinking this, so maybe that's why I can drink it. You know what I mean? And this is actually the thing that I worry about on a larger level. And again, it's not anything that affects me, but it is. And I hate to bring back up the same thing that I keep talking about, but it's microplastics, because I mean, first of all, there's the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which everyone should know about. It's like twice the size of Texas. It's all like plastic garbage sludge in the middle of the ocean. There's like 5 of them around the globe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just found this out. There's not just one. Waves. So, gotcha. With that being said, 1/5 of the human population right now gets their protein in their diet from the ocean. So like 20% of people get their proteins from the ocean. So that means they're getting protein with microplastics, right? Exactly. Mm-hmm. They have just recently found microplastics in our soil. So if you eat a vegetarian diet, then you still are consuming microplastics because they're in our soil now.
100%, man. Yeah, no,
plastic is probably the worst things humans ever created.
What are you going to say, Kyle? What are your thoughts, man?
Plastic's horrible, but no, to get personal again, I live in Arizona, and you don't drink the tap water. You simply do not. I live right now in Phoenix, and I lived in Havasu before. But like, if you live in one of the more mountainous regions like Sedona or Prescott or Flagstaff, you could probably get away with drinking the tap water. But I keep a Brita filter in my fridge, and I'm more worried about those contaminants than the long-term effects of the fluoride that might be in the water. But also, we've talked about the food thing, is to get personal is I keep my diet pretty clean because I can be selective with what I get from the food bank, what I eat and all that.
Absolutely.
But also just like coincidentally, the school I work at is called Sweetwater Community School. It's an alternative school, and the breakfasts and lunches that they serve are abysmal. So that's my personal experience with like the food situation in America, which is why I was saying it hasn't really affected me a whole lot, but I understand the issue.
No, totally. Well, I mean, exactly. So the one thing I wanted to give you to, because I know you go to a food bank, and I'm not sure about you, Kody. And I remember I said this to you guys, I think on one of Don's shows, if I'm correct. It was either one of my shows Don was on, or I was on Don's show, and I said this to you guys: look for the Asian grocery stores in your area. Look for those. Because the one thing I'm going to tell you is you're going to get really, really good produce, like very high quality produce that is affordable. You're going to be able to get meats that are good, that are affordable. And you're going to be able to get a lot of fruits and things like that that are affordable as well. And as far as, attacking the microplastics, because yes, they quite literally are in everything at this point. They are. They're quite literally in everything. And the number one thing I would potentially tell you guys to do that can help assist you in this is start taking iodine. Right. I don't know if you guys now, there's a hack to taking iodine, though, because if you go to any supplement website and you try to get food grade iodine, you're going to be spending a freaking arm and a leg on these these iodine supplements. So your secret hack to this is kelp. All right. Get yourself.
Oh, hell yeah. I have kelp right now.
Yeah. Go get yourself. You can get kelp capsules, man.
Seaweed.
Yeah. Seaweed's great too. Yeah. Seaweed's a good source of it also. But you can go to any vitamin store and get 3 months worth of kelp capsules for $13, as opposed to if you were going to go get a food grade iodine supplement from one of these stores where you're going to spend upwards of like $50 to $60 for a month's supply. So yeah, kelp and seaweeds, things like that, they're going to be, and that's going to help, because what iodine does, right, is it actually flushes heavy metals and microplastics out of your body.
Yeah. They take iodine pills in the Chernobyl series, and that's the weird thing about iodine is it's like chemotherapy. It can be good for you or it can be bad for you. Really, it just depends on how you use it.
100%, man. And of course, there's also a little bit of a myth when it comes to certain things too. So one of the things you'll see, and I actually dispelled this myth like way back in season 1 in my deconstructing propaganda of the food episode. This is how passionate I am about this stuff. So the recommended daily values, yes, Maya, spirulina is also a great choice for that as well. But the recommended daily values of certain vitamins are actually, in a lot of ways, the bare minimum of those vitamins. So let's take a look at zinc, for instance. The recommended daily value for an average adult of zinc, this is zinc ironclad your immune system. You know what I mean? It's very important. And but if you they say the recommended daily values around anywhere from I think it's 5 to 10 milligrams. But zinc is something that you can safely take upwards of 45 to 60 milligrams a day. And what this will do is this will actually ironclad your immune system. It's like giving your immune system natural steroids, dude. Mm-hmm. And it will it's like giving them a little shot, and then all your white blood cells are all like, holy shit, dude, I feel really strong right now. We're going to fight off anything that comes our way. And So the same thing with iodine. You know, the recommended daily value of iodine, I think, is, if I'm correct, anywhere from like 30 to 40 milligrams or micrograms. But you can safely take up to, in cases of severe radiation, like you're saying, Kyle, you can take upwards of 3,000, which would be 3,000 to 4,000 micrograms a day. I currently do 300 micrograms a day, and I've noticed nothing but positive effects from it. You know what I mean? And really the way to combat what's going on with our food right now is, I mean, of course, we have people in the chat saying this, is to honestly grow our own, and try to. I know. Honestly, guys, I can set you up with how to do a little grow station in your apartments, man. I can show you guys how to do it.
Dude, I own a home. I don't have an apartment.
I didn't know. I didn't know you guys own a home. Sorry, my bad. I take it back. I don't own a home yet, if that makes you guys feel better. I'm renting a home right now, but I don't own. But no, you guys definitely you guys can start growing your own veggies. You know what I mean? And start getting that going there. And also, as far as meats go, when you can help it, try to get locally sourced. Try to go to a butcher if you can help it. If you can't afford it. The next best thing to look for is to look for certified grass-fed, grass-finished. Look for eggs or that chickens that were fed insects, that ate natural insects, as opposed to the corn. All of these different things. This is the way we can kind of start to combat that, because I think both of you can agree with me at this point in time. One of the biggest tools we have to vote in this country is our dollar. Yeah. You know what I mean? Our dollar is what dictates what we have an ample supply of.
And I think Kyle was saying it correctly earlier. And right now, I have meat in my fridge from the Asian market, Stephen. You'd be so proud.
I love it. I love it, dude. Oh yeah, it's the best kept secret. It's the best kept secret. I'll tell you.
And so I have also a fairly clean diet. But again, it's the things that we see, I understand. I don't live in a food desert in Pittsburgh, but I know where it is. And I don't live in the food desert in Denver, but I know where it is.
Oh, 100%, dude. I can tell you one right down the street. One right down the street, man, is the Havana. And it's the Havana and the Iliff area in Aurora.
Yeah,
dude. That is a freaking massive food. Oh, dude, I was so pissed. I was driving around looking for a grocery store, because this is before I moved into what I'm doing now. When I was driving around as a service electrician, I would have to go to the bathroom, dude. You're in a freaking van all day, and and of course out here in Denver, none of the freaking gas stations are in the Aurora area. None of the gas stations let you use the bathroom anymore, so you have to find a grocery store. I had to literally drive all the way up into Stapleton, which was like a 20-minute drive from where I was, just to find a grocery store.
I believe you.
Yeah,
that Havana Iliff area, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
and it's not nice.
It's not nice. And kind of in regards to what Kyle was saying about the food in the schools and what they're feeding kids.
Yeah.
That's
groceries here too. I was a teacher before. I'm not anymore, but when I was a teacher at our schools, we also had the worst lunches and breakfasts. They were terrible.
The biggest question I want to ask you guys too, do you know the DOD actually runs the food school program?
Hey, which is the Department of Defense? What?
I did not know that. That makes no sense.
The DOD, I think it was either back in 2022 or 2023, took over the school lunch programs nationwide.
Yeah.
Why the DOD decided to I like this, but I gotta stop at this comment real quick. Freaking Kelly said we all need to start guerrilla gardening and planting or grafting fruit trees and food all over the place.
Grafting.
One of the best. Yeah, dude. One of the that's honestly, when I was living in Florida, right? I did a short stint where I was living in Florida very, very long ago. And one of the things that was cool down there is we had
I lived in
neighborhood fruit
Florida.
trees. Yeah, neighborhood fruit trees, dude. Like we had neighborhood fruit trees.
Yeah.
Like we had Mineola trees, we had loquat trees, we had regular orange trees, we had lime, everything just growing in the neighborhood, man. And you go up there and pick the fruits, man. And of course, if you were responsible, you didn't overload, like you'd come back and next year there'd always be more, and yeah, so I do think it is. And you also look at city designers too, like I don't know if you guys ever heard this conspiracy. It's kind of interesting and it makes a lot of sense. So the arbor engineers for a lot of city centers and stuff like that, they do strictly male plants. And this is actually why we have such an issue with pollen, but they don't do any female plants. They don't do any fruiting plants in the city centers. And people want to say, the mess that it would cause. I'm like, dude, do you know how many squirrels in the freaking city would be like, oh, hell yeah, fermented fruit on the fucking ground, and all the birds and everything like that? The animals would clean up the mess for us, dude. 100%. Like anything that fell from the tree got fermented or on the ground or anything like that, the animals would take care of it for us. So why do we only have male trees in city centers? Why do we only have these male trees and things like that? So it's a big question, but the thing about it
What's
the answer is this. This is my opinion. Of course, I don't have a concrete answer, but this is just my opinion. I do feel that there is something out there, whether it be an individual or a group of people, that does not want people eating healthy food for free. There's something out there that does not want people eating healthy fruit but you got to think, dude, this is a part of nature. This is part of life. You know what I mean? Like humans for years upon years, even in the ancient days, have walked up to the fruit trees and collected their fruit, growing out in nature, and freaking got a bucket of apples, got a bucket of oranges, whatever they might have been picking at that point in time, even wild strawberries, dude. Like, I don't know if you two have ever had the amazing privilege of having a real wild strawberry.
I have.
But
yeah,
they're amazing, are they not? They're amazing. It blows your mind.
Wild raspberries are even better.
The ripest strawberry I ever had. Like, yeah. It was awesome.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. Go ahead, what you say, Kody?
We've eaten 1 million blackberries as well. Think about that.
Yeah. That is a very big amount of blackberries, man. But no, dude. So like, I think really, I mean, even the chat's pointing out the solutions is we start to grow our own food, and we start to pull away from these food corporations, and ultimately, what's going to happen? Because like I was telling you guys, like our dollar, our currency here is honestly the biggest vote that we have when it comes to, they're going to see their money supply dwindle, okay, because more people are not buying their produce, more people are not buying their meats, they're trying to source everything else, that they're going to have no choice but to do two things. They're going to either cave and continue to lose money. I got a sneeze coming on. Oh my goodness, what is going on tonight? But either going to cave and fold because they don't want to change, or they're ultimately going to make the change and start to clean it up because they're losing money. Because we talked about how
exactly. Sorry, but this all goes into profit motive, and the idea of profit motive is literally why we've taken things like food, healthcare, education, and made these things that are basic human needs into commodities, things that people make money off of. Like, again, healthcare, education, food. I feel like all three of those things are, like, when you talk about the psychology of governments, those are like the three basics that like a government should probably provide.
Well,
or a good society, right? A good society.
My thing is that, no, and I get what you're saying, Kyle. I think we as a society need to provide for each other. I think the relying on a governing body. And Kelly said in deer hunting in the off season. Well, if you use a bow, like you said, if a tree fell in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, did the tree make a noise? And that's what I'm gonna say. So like, you know, I mean, but I think we as a society, we need to start stepping up, and or as a community at least, and we need to start stepping up, and we need to start having compassion for people, because that's one of my biggest arguments with a lot of Republicans and conservatives right now, because they you know, they claim to be Christian, and they claim to follow the rules of Christ. I mean, Christ looked out for those who were less fortunate. He didn't look down upon those who were less fortunate. And I think where this comes from in our society is the conditioning factor. You know, because our society is very materialistic. We look at material success as being a definer of actual success, when really I can't tell you how many materially successful people that I know that are insanely fucking unhappy. They're insanely unhappy. Like, yes, they have all of this money. They might have a giant house. They might have, you know, all of these nice cars, but they're completely alone. They're not happy. You know what I mean? And so that's the conditioning factor we see. I mean, it's drilled into us everywhere, man. You turn on the TV, who gets the most respect? The person with the most money. Who gets treated the best? The person who's got the most nice things, you know, and things like that. And one of the biggest things too, I hear when, you know, people are talking about people, and this is what kind of grinds my gears a lot too. Whenever somebody's talking about someone, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is what kind of worker they are. I see it like every time I've seen it on mainstream TV. Like, what do you think of so and so? Oh, well, he's a hard worker. I'm like, well, is that the only thing that dictates somebody's value? You know, is if they're a hard worker. What if they're a good person? Like, what if they make people smile? What if they make people feel good about themselves? Like, you know, what if they're like a upstanding member of the community that does a lot for their community and like make sure everybody's taken care of and everybody's straight? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why do these things not apply? You know, when we're talking, and this is the conditioning factor that's taking place. So like, so I think honestly, what we're going to have to do before we hop into the next subject, I just want to close it off on this, unless you two want to say anything, is we as a community have to stand up. And we have to start looking out for other members in our community. And I mean, even talking about trade and barter, dude. Like, I mean, let's say you're growing all of these fucking tomatoes and all of these carrots, and you know somebody who might not have all that stuff, but they're baking bread. You know what I mean? Maybe they're baking homemade sourdough bread, or they're baking homemade you know, goodies and stuff like that. And you go, well, hey, look, I see you need some veggies. I would definitely love some of these homemade goodies. I'll trade you this sack of tomatoes and this sack of carrots for some of your homemade goodies. And that person's all like, awesome, dude. I love it. Let's do it. And then you start up a freaking thing. Like, I even have a guy down the street. I haven't talked with him in a while. Back when I was brewing wine, I was trading him wine for chicken eggs. Like, you know, like you work a system like that.
It can go beyond food. There are people who just like knit. Like, imagine trading a sack of tomatoes for a blanket that somebody knitted.
100%.
Yeah. So, like, again, let's try to eat healthy and be on that tip, growing and making our own food. But let's not like close our minds on when it comes to barter and trade, because that's a free market, baby. Yeah.
100%, 100%. I like where you guys are at with that. All right, so for the final thing I want to talk about the science of love. You know,
Thank you.
The title of this episode. Go ahead, Kody. You seem really compelled to speak. Let's hear it.
I want to ask some questions to get us started maybe on this idea. And so,
Okay.
First of all, Stephen, have you heard of the revolutionofconsciousness.com?
I have heard of it, and I've probably visited it, but it's quite some time. But why don't you refresh me on that?
So Kyle recently shared this article with me, and it's Love in the Fifth Dimension.
Okay.
And so I think the biggest thing that this talks about is soul love.
Yeah.
and how soul love is like this next level of love. And so I have a couple of things to say about this. So, yes, there's romantic love and non-romantic love, right? So there's that. And that's the thing is like, I was in love with my ex-wife, Danielle. I was in love with her. Prior to that, I was in love with Tara. Tara was my high school girlfriend. Kyle knows who she is. I was in love with these women in a romantic way. I have a love for my son that cannot be measured or quantified in any way that is non-romantic completely. But, and this is what I've had other parents talk to me about, is like the love that you have for your child is not, it's just different. It's just different.
100%. I would completely, even though I'm not a parent, I would agree with that based on what I've heard from a lot of different people. But Kyle, what did you want to say?
Well, yeah, exactly. Going off of what Kody said is, it goes into another point that I wanted to make. I really hope you have seen the movie Interstellar, because yes, in that movie, it is the non-romantic love between Matthew McConaughey and his daughter that allows him to access the Tesseract. And it's like, all right, this is some next level stuff. Christopher Nolan, you're nailing it. Like, yeah.
No, definitely. That was a really cool scene in that movie. What do you want to say, Kody?
And then also in the same movie, Anne Hathaway's romantic love, right?
Yeah.
Guys?
Exactly. In Interstellar, Anne Hathaway's like romantic love is how she is able to sort of transcend time and space.
Absolutely. So one of the things I'm going to go off what Kyle just said here. Through love, she transcended time and space.
Yeah.
Right. And so the one thing about love is multidimensional in my eyes. Absolutely. Love is a very the capacity in the entirety of love itself cannot be defined or grounded here in just this physical realm. And what I mean by that is, I mean, love in and of itself, well, yes, it's a feeling, it's an emotion, but in a lot of ways, it's a force, it's a power that can actually manipulate time and space. And I can give some examples of how this is done. So, have you ever had food that was made with love? Right? You ever have food but then let's say like this, you had food that was made with love, right? And you go and you try that same dish somewhere else, right? Doesn't hit the same, does it? It doesn't hit the same as the dish that was made with love, right? Because this is how love manipulates reality. When you apply love to what you do, especially for you two, because I know you both are fathers, you know, when you cook a meal for your children, you're doing it with love.
I'm a chef right now.
Yeah, you love your children, right? Like you love them. And your kids probably love the food you eat. You make them too because you're cooking with that love. And I guarantee you also that if they were to go try with that dish somewhere else, they would go, man, this ain't the same as dad's. You know what I mean? Dad makes
exactly.
dad makes this so much better, right? Because you guys took the love that you had for your children and you channeled it into what you were doing. And that has a direct effect on reality itself. You know what I mean? So yes, love can manipulate reality. If you impart love into what you're doing, it will give you a way, way different result than if you were not implementing love into what you were doing. How it manipulates time. Have you ever noticed when you sit down with somebody you love, time just seems to fucking either slow down or you feel like you don't have enough time? Those are the two instances of how love manipulates time. So what were you say, Kyle? Go ahead. I want to hear what you were
Our
thoughts are.
mom is the one I feel this feeling the most with, and I think Kody probably agrees because we're twins and we have this again, like he was talking about, an indescribable love between him and his son. The love we have for our mother is unquantifiable, like it's indescribable.
Love her.
Absolutely. So you guys can see, just based on with my two examples, how love, well, yes, love is a feeling, love is an emotion, love is actually a force that when utilized, it can manipulate our reality.
Also, Stephen, I love what you were saying about food because in some of the research that I've done from what Kyle provided me with is also like this attempt by people to create love in all these different ways. You brought up food, but dude, there's music, there's dance, there's,
Absolutely.
there's
There's
art.
Yeah.
There's art. Like people paint because they're in love. People make songs because they're in love. Like
You see how it's a driving force. It's a driving creative force, man. And like, yeah, great examples, dude. Great examples. And but yes, so this is why we need to start looking at love as more than just an emotion and a feeling. We need to start looking at love as a force in our existence, and especially too, like what you were talking about, the love for the child. Even though I'm not a parent yet, one of the things I can say is the reason why you probably feel that inconceivable, indescribable love for your son is because you created that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You created this little human being that's not so little anymore, but you created this human being that's sitting in front of you. You created this life. This is strictly due to you, man, and the other individual who is involved. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But this is where this comes from. You channeled a divine love into existence itself.
Correct. We were in love. He is a child of love. So
absolutely. And that is also why you feel this indescribable, all-encompassing love for him is because of that. And absolutely.
It's like reciprocal. It's weird. Yeah.
It is, of course, because you're his dad. You know what I mean? Of course, because you're his dad. You're the only dad he's got. And of course, what were you saying?
No, you're Stephen, if it's okay, actually, I'm gonna share this article with you.
Yeah, let's check it out. Let's take a look.
Also, what I really want to do is read the end part because it says, and I think you'll like this. So, the first golden rays of divine love peek over the horizon. Dawn approaches humanity's consciousness, and compassion fills the air. As the sun casts out the darkness of the night, we settle within the clarity of soul love to recognize that there is no darkness, only an absence of light, and we are that light.
Dude, I love that, man. And I'm gonna implore you guys to continue checking that stuff out because ultimately, man, this is what's going to get us through what we're going through right now. And is this love, this compassion, this empathy for others. I mean, just how I was stating earlier, we have to, as a community, we have to stand up and take that upon ourselves. And my thing is ever since, and I've said this on this show before, so I'm sorry for anybody who's heard me say this if I'm beating the horse dead, but it's absolutely true. We've been conditioned from the day we enter this world. We've been conditioned to look outside of ourselves for love. And outside of ourselves for love, outside of ourselves for validation, outside of ourselves for the answers to these bigger questions in life, but in all reality, that love is located within us, as you can see, and having understanding that love is there within you. You know what I mean? Go ahead, what do you
It's
say?
gonna be so much easier to love others if you can love yourself, obviously.
Absolutely. Well, look at the conditioning our society. The conditioning our society places on this collective. You know, it strives to push the love out of us in a lot of ways. It strives to push the love out of us. It strives to beat the imagination out of us. It strives to. I'll tell you what, man. A grown person that has their imagination intact
Yeah,
is
dude.
is a force to be fucking reckoned with, man.
They
And
want everyone to grow up and be a professional, and fuck that.
dude, I'm telling you, dude, we don't get me wrong. Yes, while we need workers, we also need thinkers. We also need artists. We also need musicians. We also need this. Like, yes, we need all of that stuff, man. And I remember, dude, when I was a kid, right, even before I started playing guitar, I wanted to be an artist. That was my shit. I drew, I painted, I did all kinds of things. I would make sculptures, all of that. And I was always asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd be like, oh, an artist, and they'd be like, oh, you want to be a starving artist, and exactly. But to me, that shouldn't be the case. Like we look at one of the biggest things that's starting to really bug me is how AI is taking over a lot of this creativity at this point. And
Yeah, totally.
and my thing was supposed to be, I thought AI was supposed to make our lives a little bit easier so we could focus on being more creative and
Not make
being,
our art for us. What the hell?
exactly. And now we have these reports of AI actually. So if you go publish a song, like let's say on Spotify, the AI can take your song, basically plagiarize it, and then put a copyright claim against you.
Yeah.
And the platform is going to honor the copyright claim from the AI, the fucking robot, before it actually takes a look at you and what you did. So we have the exact freaking opposite of what was supposed to happen with artificial intelligence. A lot of people, I bring up the Jetsons a lot for people who remember. If you remember Rosie the robot, she did all the fucking housework and all of the stuff like that, so they could go out and live their lives and take care of things.
Jetsons were awesome,
dude. I swear, the Jetsons, man. It was definitely a glimpse into a strange future that could have been. You know what I mean? It could have been, for sure.
The future we all wanted.
The future we all probably could have gone with, but no, exactly, and that's what I'm saying, man. So I'm ultimately going to say, to close this out tonight, that I think that this is what we need to start doing. You know what I mean? Overall, we need to start having more love, compassion, and empathy for each other. Starting to learn to love ourselves. You know what I mean? And this is why I say, in a lot of ways, fill your mind stream, your consciousness up with good things. Are you watching the viral, negative, polarizing stuff of the world, or are you filling your mind with good things, the positivity in the world? And thank you, SNX. I appreciate it. We'll have to chat again soon. But and also too, growing your own food, taking the step forward, doing that, helping provide for your communities. What's really interesting is I'm kind of going to use this old saying, monkey see, monkey do. I guarantee you, if a lot of the people in your communities saw you guys starting your own gardens, it will pique some interest. And then what you might have is a whole block starting their own garden. You might have a whole neighborhood.
And then you trade. I have some parsley. You have some tomatoes.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. And then also, man, we need more creative love energy in this world, man. We do. Art and music are just as important things to the human psyche and human culture. Than working our lives away. Yeah, than working our lives away and fucking living this monotonous 9-to-5 hamster wheel life that they have set up for us at this point in time. So ultimately, guys, I want to say, this was the best conversation I've had with you two yet, man. And I wasn't lying. I wasn't lying when I said I'm proud of you guys. I like that you guys have been looking at different things and expanding your horizons and things like that. And I do look forward to the day where, we can do another show. Let's definitely talk about season 4 if you guys aren't busy and you have the time available. Let's talk about getting together next year and like touching base. But ultimately, guys, I got to say this was the best conversation I've had with you two. I am phenomenally impressed with you guys. I'm not lying. I'm not buttering you up. And I look forward to seeing how you two grow. You know what I mean? I look forward to seeing how you two grow and the way you further yourselves as men in this world.
Yeah, and so that is actually something that I think can close out the topic of love for us, hopefully. Men shouldn't be shying away from embracing like love in all of its different forms and creations and whatnot. And that also goes into the concept of the science of love, is that like it's really and like we didn't really get into the chemical processes and whatnot, like what's happening up here when
Totally.
like love is taking place.
Oh, yeah.
But that can be pretty hard to understand. Like, so let's not let that let us shy away from things just because it can be hard to understand.
For sure, guys. Anything else you want to say to close out, Kody?
And that's why the topic, the science of love, is so fun. Like,
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, the science of love. What the hell are you talking about? It can't be quantified. It can't be, So
it's also a force and a power that you can use to manipulate your reality around you. And never forget that.
Sorry, I did want to say one more thing. I think it was awesome that we were all able to show, like, as men, as certain like vulnerability, talking about love, and that was just cool that we were able to do that naturally without even it just happened.
Definitely, man, and that's definitely something I want to chat with you guys about next episode for sure, is because that to me in a lot of ways. I don't think masculinity itself is toxic. I think there are toxic aspects of it. And men who cannot address their emotions and they snuff them out, and not embrace love and not and not embrace that creative nature of themselves, the balancing of their masculine and feminine energies within themselves. That's a huge epidemic in our society. That's a whole other show altogether. But you two, man, thanks again for coming on. It was a good combo. I really enjoyed this. So guys, if you want to go ahead and follow Kyle and Kody, go check out their Brothers Blue channel. I have the link in both the Rumble and the YouTube descriptions. And of course, guys, check out Divine Creation Gifts. That link is down in both the Rumble and the YouTube descriptions. And of course, to close the show off, you guys can hang out for just a couple minutes after we're done. You know what we say here on BGcast. Stay safe, stay free, have that personal agency and that personal sovereignty. But for the love of God, stay away from the Japanese sex robots. They are very bad news. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.
Collectively together, you weren't born to rotate with the crowd. You were born to sync with the sacred spiral. The Hercules stream is proof. The cosmos hummers the divergent. This is urgent. BG-Cast brings us that Hercules energy. It's here to save the day. You won't stay lost in the dark. Here is your shot with BG kept beside you. Can we rise alone?